Hello everyone. Welcome to this event titled Participatory Research, How Societal Participation in Science Helps Society. And as you can see by the title, there's an impact both on the societal participation part and also on the impact that this societal participation in science generates. This event will be held in English and it's being recorded. And the recording, together with Latvian subtitles, will be made available on the Research Latvia Facebook page, as well as the website of the ministry. And I encourage all the participants listening in today to write your questions in the chat. And at the end of the presentation, we will try to answer as many questions as we can. Latvia can be very proud of our citizen science initiatives. We had a study that the ministry commissioned a year ago, and while the study was being done, there was a mapping of citizen science initiatives, and over 15 initiatives were identified. And I see Jānis Daugavietis is also participating in this chat. He was actively involved in mapping the initiatives. So just to put it in context, Latvia has a population of less than 2 million people, yeah, we have 15 initiatives at least, and many of these initiatives have members within the thousands who've participated. And of course, also for our ministry, the Ministry of Education and Science, participatory research and citizen science is a priority. And we see this from two angles. So it has a science communication angle, and also it's a core pillar of our national open science strategy, which we hope to have adapted by the cabinet by the end of the year. So what are our priorities within citizen science from our ministry side? So we, in our open science strategy, endorse the 10 principles identified by the European Citizen Science Association. And notably, the one that we always emphasize is that whenever there are citizen science initiatives where the public and academia create value together, there should be a benefit for the people taking part. And there also should be some kind of academic value that generates insights and knowledge for the academic community. So this is key, that all of these initiatives benefit both sides of this cooperation. So before I give the floor to our main speaker, I would like to give the floor for quick welcoming words to the cultural advisor and director of the French Institute in Latvia, Véronique Dissassois, please.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Dear all, first of all and foremost, I would like to thank you all for participating to this webinar today, and also the Ministry, of course, and the Ministry of Science and Education of Latvia for holding and organizing the whole event. And of course, my special gratitude goes to Tomā Eglī for having accepted to share his expertise. Indeed, he's very impressive. I'm personally very impressed, as he invented and created the first participatory research camp in 2004. And he's also founder of a foundation dedicated to project-based learning technology for schools, and the NGO Objectif Science International that has a special consultative status to United Nations. Thus, I'm sure that Mr. Thomas, if you allow me to call you by your name, presentation will be for at least very, very stimulating, and especially that currently, Thomas, you are the CEO of Geneva Forum since 2001, organizing the international annual conferences in United Nations on several key factors topics in order to allow all the actors and operators in these domains to exchange, meet and share directly and at the largest international level. And I'm particularly, I would say, interested and in such issues as sustainable tourism, responsible travel, also inclusive education and project-based learning. So I will finish my my introductory words. I hope I was not too long, and I hope that today's discussion will spark projects ideas for the benefit of Latvian and French cooperation between ministries, but also between our societies. So thank you very much, and have a very fruitful discussion. And once again, French Embassy and French Institute in Latvia are very happy to cooperate with this great project. Thank you.
Thank you, Director, and thank you very much for already introducing Thomas. With no further ado, I will give the floor to Thomas, and I just remind the audience once again to write your questions in the chat as the presentation is being presented. Please, Thomas.
Yes, hello everybody. I hope you hear me good enough. I will share you a general presentation on Objectif Science International, what we do in citizen science. And I will try to do it as fast as possible in order we can share the most of time for the question. So immediately I present you the general presentation of the NGO Objectif Science International. So normally you have the presentation now on your screen, isn't it? And I hope I can change the slide. Yes. So here you have the short description of what we do and where we are. So the technical word to say what we do is participatory research. Participatory research, as we will see together, is a part of participatory science, and participatory science is one of the most involving model of citizen science. So why we do participatory research? We do it to lead science for sustainable development goals and to lead high level of education, because as you will see, participatory research allows us to lead education under the format of project-based learning, so learning by doing on real projects, etc. So we are present in all the continents, founded in 1992, recognized by as an NGO by the United Nations. As you can see, the ECOSOC, and the headquarters is in Geneva. And now I will show you, with the help of Alexander's, a little movie of less than two minutes in English, and after I will continue the presentation.
I would like to take part in a trip that would be beneficial to something.
Then come to OSI.
Is that so? What is it all about?
Objectif Science International is an NGO present in all continents with a United Nations special consultative status. It's an NGO that organizes science camps open to all. Participants learn by doing. These science education camps will teach you how to act for the environment and to achieve sustainable development goals.
By what means?
By tracking pythons in the mountains, building robots, climbing up trees, observing whales in the oceans.
That's nice. It sounds nice. But how can that be useful?
These camps or expeditions will allow you make observations, take measurements and samples, or even allow you elaborate prototypes by following a real scientific method.
Okay, but what is the objective of all these?
You see, all data collected and experiments conducted will help scientists with their ongoing research programs, allowing them to have answers to current issues by advancing scientific knowledge.
So, it is the scientists that will be doing everything then?
No. It will be the participants, like you. The scientists will invite you to take part in the scientific adventure.
Very good. And how do we intend to change the world?
By taking part in the knowledge and preservation of the planet. And just like what Commandant Cousteau said, it is in protecting what we love that we love what we know.
Great! When can I register?
Because the worst was yet to come. No matter how I was no one. Because the worst was yet to come.
As you saw in the movie, we use craft paper and post-it and paintings as the participatory research is at the base a way of thinking of hacking, okay? So we give the power to the public and we allow them to lead real projects by themselves. So here you have the countries where we are already active or where we have local operators together creating a local group of the NGO. And here you have some what make the fundamental elements, fundamental bricks of what we build. It is for all type of public, so the kids, the teenagers, the students, the adults who are not researchers, the old people, the families, etc. So all type of citizens. We do it in absolutely all topics of science, including human science. We connect this type of citizen project with the national research institution from the countries in Switzerland, in France, in Canada, in USA, in Kyrgyzstan, etc., where we have the activities. It's very important to make the bridge run in the two directions. And we build some teams composed by educators and scientists in order to create like a dream team with the capacities of the two type of works we need to manage this type of operations, because we have to lead groups and we have to manage the scientific research also. So it is all over the world, and we contribute to the local economy and the ecology locally in all destinations. It's very important. So we built the project from the bottom. It is a bottom-up behavior. And very important also, we have to publicate the results from the participants. So the volunteers are authors of the scientific articles published in scientific reviews, and we allow them to present the results with the Geneva Forum at the United Nations. But to manage to do all of this, we use the existing pipes of activities. So in order to reach the maximum of publics, we use, depending the countries, the holidays times, the training times, discovery classes for the school trip, etc., etc. So if in one country, a lot of adults like to travel usefully, at this moment, we will propose a real participatory research project through the pipe of useful travels, etc., etc. So the idea is to input the participatory research opportunities through the existing economic and users activities, depending the publics and the country. Here you have an example of what we do on the snow leopard, the Panthera expeditions in Nepal, in Kyrgyzstan, since 2006. Every year, the citizens since 16 years old alone, and since 10 years old, if they are accompanied by an adult, go in the mountain and come back with genetics artifacts like sheets, hairs, or photography, like you see the photography here, the picture of the snow leopard was done by our automatic camera trap installed by the volunteers. And now we are in fact the only organizations able to provide all this DNA capital to the research institutions like CNRS, etc. Because we are present all the year, all the months since June to October, so since the end of the snow to the beginning of the snow. And it is the power of the citizen science, as the classical research is not able to be present all the year since June to October every year. So the citizens have a big power in their hand. Another example is typically a local activity. Here we have an example of what we do in Swiss Alps for Swiss publics for kids. But this number of 781 species is already an old number. Now we reach the 900 species identified clearly with proof by these kids of 7 years old on this place. It's a big valley where they follow the biodiversity. And the idea of the research is to evaluate if the comeback of the wolf will change or not the biodiversity of the valley. If the wolf come back, do the trees come back? And if the trees come back, do the birds come back? Thanks the wolf. So we have to know this with science researchers, and it's 7 years old kids who do this. So it was a first presentation of OSI, and now because it is the topic of the presentation of today, I mean for the question of citizen development of an economy thanks to citizen science, I want to share you a second presentation where we will see how it can help the local economy, the education, quality, etc. So I will share again my screen. Just I have to know from the technique if I share the second movie also, or if you do it. Okay, so the sound was good for you. So here I will send you also through the organizers the links to this presentation, institutional presentation of the NGO. Here, what you can see is some examples of what citizen science do for the different sustainable development goals. So if I focus here on the contribution of no poverty objective, ZG number 1, the snow leopard example I show you, injected more than 250,000 euros in the Kyrgyz economy in 10 years. So it is just one expedition, okay, in all what we do, who inject this in the economy. So it can give you a good idea of what this type of educational activities and scientific activities for all these type of publics can have as effect, as here it's just for one expedition. And in Switzerland, in France, or in other countries like Canada, we have between 3 to 6 different science camps in the same place, at the same time. We call it a citizen science center. So you can imagine what can happen in creation of employment in the country who decide to launch this type of activities. But you reach a lot of other goals, including equality, gender, because we reach nearly 40% of girls making science now in our camps. You can reach all the type of SDGs because it is completely including activities. The science and the education allow you to reach all the SDGs. Okay, so now I will show you a second movie.
Objectif Science International is an NGO present in all continents with 25 years experience in science education and more than 10 years experience in participatory research, creating the first real research camps in 2004. This NGO is the only science education organization that enjoys the UN Special Consultative status. The NGO is dedicated to working for the environment and sustainable development goals through concrete actions in which every participant is involved in promoting scientific projects while learning by doing. These scientific missions are conducted on the ground by participants through a pedagogical evolution put in place by the NGO to help volunteers attain easily the level of competence and involvement necessary in conducting research activities. A lot of professional know-how is necessary for achieving participatory research actions. Objectif Science International proposes a large scale of competencies, the capacity of creating a tailored pedagogical project in a research program, the proficiency in procedures from quality production to the satisfaction of all participants and partners, the capacity to bring together different actors important to a research activity. These actors are research and science education program professionals who add scientific expertise to projects conducted, education and logistics for sustainable development program professionals in charge of organizing and welcoming volunteer participants to the camps, participatory development program professionals who increase funding sources and the number of volunteers on the camps, the NGO local group operations department in the country or region concerned, scientific educators who are key actors contributing to the smooth progress of the science camps, local non-profit organizations or cooperative enterprises who wish to become actors in the NGO are selected on different skill criteria and the level of their commitment in the long run. These organizations join Objectif Science International and become constituent members of the NGO. When they become members, each of these different organizations have a specific responsibility attributed to it, an OSI mandate. This mandate is an international contract signed between two organizations. All mandated operators sign directly with the NGO International Headquarters in Geneva, allowing them to work effectively all over the world. These organizations have their own team composed of an administration committee, a program leader, and team members. Members could be volunteers, university trainees, company workers, on national service, or sponsored by a private company or a public agency. Some organizations have a research program mandate, an educational logistics program mandate, or a development program mandate. In each country or town where a local group of the NGO is established, one of these organizations will have the operations department mandate. Seasonal scientific educators are employed by the operations management of Objectif Science International. Professional scientific educators are mandated operators of the NGO. The OSI Operations Department coordinates and animates gradual progress of the cooperation between all mandated operators. The OSI local group is composed of all active mandated operators in the region. Apart from the official connection with the headquarters, all operators are in reality in relation with one another from one country to the other. The local group operations department animates and assembles all operators by organizing monthly group meetings and also by mails, telephone, and being in charge of sending letters of assignment. A mandated operator will be based in a particular country with their local group, but also can be involved in other activities organized in other regions of the world. The mandated operator can therefore take part in different local groups. In the course of his or her professional development within the NGO, a scientific educator or a program leader receives a body of certification trainings. Objectif Science International's position is to train more while reducing central supervision. NGO members receive more skills and can act with much more autonomy while guaranteeing the OSI model. Common branch trainings, ST1 for seasonal scientific educators, ST2 for professional scientific educators, and ST3 for program leaders are accompanied by an initial coaching for program leaders and development workshop aimed at providing key transversal elements to all constituent members of Objectif Science International. Every year, operators that are members of the NGO attend the Geneva Forum organized by Objectif Science International at the United Nations in Switzerland. The operators are joined by external observers, but the particularity of this General Assembly is that it lasts for a whole week and it is entirely open to the public. Members who took part during the year in post-participatory research camp meetings can also attend the Geneva Forum as regional or national delegations. This annual platform is a means of updating all the NGO's management tools, and all members present their assessment for the year and future projects. Now, you know all about Objectif Science International. See you soon.
What I wanted to show you with this movie is in particularly this. Yes, here we see everybody. Here you have all those type of stakeholders you can find and need in a country to launch participatory research operations. I mean, we need a program of science to provide the content, the protocols, the tools, the training of the educators. You need a program of pedagogy and logistics. I mean, all the preparation and the organization of the hosting of the group, the quality, the security, the transfers, the meal, all what is on the education and the hosting. And sometimes it is in deeply in a forest, or sometimes it is in a center of holidays. So it's not every time the same work. And you need the program of development, as you need make fundraising to find money to have more places for poor families, kids, for example, or you need to find volunteers who want to travel usefully. like adults or families sending teenagers on scientific linguistic camps. A science camp in USA in English can be a very smart linguistic camp. So you need this type of know-how, like we call them operators. You need also, you have the brain at the middle of this chart. You need the COO, the Chief Operating Officer. This professional coordinate and manage all the others professional and operators I talked about. And you need, of course, the scientific educators. Like I said during the first part of the presentation, for the teams, we make work together scientifics and socio-cultural facilitators, and together they compose a dream team. So we create also a lot of employments in the local citizen, in the local people. So it is a first layer of what the citizen science operations can generate as a citizen development of a society. As we don't see only the creation of job employment, but we see also here the creation of grid of cooperation, a real web of cooperation that create these different bridges we talked about to introduce this afternoon. A second layer we can look on is this possibility to be involved in a local group as operator and in different local groups, because the idea is if you create in Latvia, for example, a new science camp in an existing research program, the NGO is already leading through the world, for example, following the wolf or following the bears, as we have already a science camp on these topics somewhere else in the world, your camp will be involved in the international research program on the wolf or on the bear, and you will be immediately involved in 2 or 3 different local groups through the world. So that's create a lot of exchanges, and including exchanges of know-how, tools, and not only cultural exchanges. And we talk here about reinforcement, enabling, and using the competence coming from the others. So transfer of technologies, transfer of toolbox, etc. On toolbox, now I can come at this layer, training more to control less. The idea of the NGO is to give in an open source system all the know-how. So if in Latvia, some research centers and or university and or students and or non-for-profit organizations and or travel agencies want together to create activities in participatory researches using the technologies of OSI, I mean technologies in project-based learning, technologies is in how to lead real research with the citizen, how to lead real research in the format of school trip or holidays, etc. All these technologies will be given to you in an open source, open toolbox, so you can use all as you want. Of course, it will be better if you want to join the network, because you will have the reinforcement, the enabling, the know-how exchanges, etc. But what is very interesting is if you take all the toolbox, you will know to run the engine. You will know how to drive the OSI NGO. So you can be here leading the decisions of the international network of OSI, including if you invented a new system of leading the project in Latvia, you can give it in the system through all the world, and the others local group can take what you invented in Latvia during 2 or 3 years, and after all the local groups can use it. So to finish my presentation, I just show you as institutional website of the Objectif Science International NGO. On the English version, you have one page where you go and act yourself section, create the local group of the NGO in your country. If you go here, you will find a very simple and fast tutorial, a roadmap, very simple roadmap that give you all the steps to create really a local team who will be able in 3 steps of 18 months to be fully autonomous and to create scientific research, participatory research, educational activities, and creating jobs. So you have all the steps, etc. And you can find a landing page for your country where you can aggregate all people interested by what you want to launch in your country. So in technologies, in electronics, in astronomy, in biodiversity, etc. So finally, you have no limit in your dreams. If you want to create this type of incredible participatory research actions in Latvia, or if you want to make Latvian people crossing Europe or the world with while leading scientific activities, no depending the age, no depending the richness, no depending the gender, no depending the origins, etc. You can do it. So now I am available if you have questions.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. Yeah, so while the participants are writing the questions in the chat, I wanted to ask sort of 2 sets of questions. The first are around OSI and the second are around trends in participatory research. So about OSI, so in Latvia, we've noticed that most of the citizen science initiatives are based on enthusiasts and they don't have this rigid formalized structure, let alone like enough funding or something to be participating in this European scale within this type of organization. So how does OSI typically engage with smaller citizen science initiatives?
So finally, you focus the question about how to make it real, depending the question of the money, the funds, isn't it? So what the NGO developed a lot is auto-financed model as at the beginning in the history. When I invented the format of participatory research on the education and science camp, it was to solve the question of the money. At this time, it was the beginning of the diploma of masters in mediation, education of science. We had nothing at this moment, and we had to make possible to make jobs. We had to create a reality. And today, still today, we run on this model as we are auto-financed by the volunteers, by the schools, by the hometown, by the communities who want to or to go on these activities, or to make people from their town to go to these activities. So we can create in a country, we can create local activities at local cost with local salaries. So that's create a project fully accessible for local public. We can also decide to use local languages, of course, local skills, etc. And in one country like Latvia, in 4 years to 6 years, we can reach for the beginning at €0, we can reach a yearly budget of 1 million euros. So, I mean, all this money is going to jobs. So we have people working only for holiday times because we have more operations during the holiday times, but these people can be students or can be teachers. And we need some people working all the year because during all the year we have the school trip, we have a lot of other type of participatory research operations. So when people want to create a local group, we can generate the funds by creating the local projects.
So what would be the origin source of the funds for a typical, like proportionally? Is it the participants themselves? Is it usually local governments? Is it international projects? How does this usually get funded?
Well, depending countries, depending users. For example, in Switzerland, we have a lot of adults wanting to discover the world. So they finance their own scientific adventures, like dolphins in Pacific, snow leopard in Nepal, etc. In France, it's more a culture of smart holidays for the teenagers or for the kids. So it is families or hometown that finance for their own kids or for the kids from the town. We have some state public funds too, like since 2 years now in France, what they call learnings camps, vacances apprenantes, learnings holidays. So the families receive fund directly from the country, from the state, and they can use this scholarship to subscribe on a smart holiday camp. Sometimes we have some European teenagers can subscribe half financed by themselves and half financed by Erasmus. Sometimes we have, for Canada, for example, we have a Canadian agency who pay and decide which type of young or young adult they send to which type of operations, because this agency have a target to cross the cultures, and they choose gender proportions, etc.
Okay, excellent. So we have already a question in the chat, but I will actually ask one question before that, just to finish off about OSI work specifically. So as I think was mentioned in the opening remarks, the European presidency showcases a European-wide citizen science initiative either every year or every 2 years, and there was Plastic Pirates during the German presidency. And now with the French presidency, there's also some initiative planned. During the European Union presidency, the big European-wide citizen science initiatives, I think the idea is that countries would put forward something they want to scale. And then with every next presidency, it would get bigger and bigger, and it would be like a seasonal event during presidencies.
Yeah, because in Europe is one of the most active regions through the world on citizen science. Another one is USA, but in Europe we have the ICSA, the European Citizen Science Association, created in Germany, and we have a lot of members in Spain and France and Switzerland. So it's more and more efficient and more active, crossing the ideas and the know-how in citizen science through Europe. And the events are bigger and bigger. But what I see is thanks these messages, recurrent messages, the public institutions and the federations, the European federations of these public institutions, like for example, the European Marine Board, which federate all the national institutions of marine biology, involve themselves in a citizen science chart, citizen science document, who drive and who communicate to the researchers that yes, we want, yes, we can collaborate or creating citizen science actions. But the point is, in citizen science now, we find a lot of activities who are more coming from the field of education to science, and not exactly what I call citizen science. Because in citizen science, as we have citizen, we think it could be a type of involvement. And in education to science, we don't find automatically a type of involvement. Okay, yes, we can do education to science in a format of learning by doing. It could be a great quality education to science format, but it's not exactly what we wait from a citizen science action. So if we enter in the citizen science field, at this moment we have to find a type of role played by the citizen, not only to be the learner, not only to be active public. And in this type of involvement levels, we can find a lot of different types of levels. I mean, the application, the digital applications on the smartphones can be a slow level or little level of involvement of citizens. We can reach a lot of citizens, but we don't ask them a big involvement. And after, we can imagine a citizen science club in the town or with the school. At this moment, maybe we can wait more from the citizen. And it's now at this level we see in the European Union report on citizen science, we see 4 levels of involvement in the citizen science. And for us, the last one, the fourth one, is the beginning of the participatory science. And for us, we have a 5th one, what we call the participatory research, where the citizens, including the kids, can be involved also in the decisions, also in the communications of the results. So we have a lot of things still to do in order to communicate in the European Union all the powerful of citizen science. One last remark I can give is the big help from the citizen science in the scientific policies from the government. If a government, probably very interesting point for Latvia, because if a government wants to study a problem and to propose solutions, the citizen science is very powerful, as the participatory research operations will make the citizens understand the problem before the communication of the results of the study, and they will be automatically opened to the next step, that is a proposal of solutions, and they will be in the same time enabled. So this citizen involved in the citizen science project will be already prepared to lead the solution. So for a government, it could be very cool and very smart to lead the scientific policies with participatory research project connected with.
Yeah, I think that last point is a good point. And we've actually tried doing this by integrating citizen science in top-down research programs. So it's directly connected with the research program, not just a side activity. Okay, so you a little bit prefaced Gunta Kalvan's question from the chat. What is the difference between citizen science and participatory research? Is it just the depth of engagement, or is there some other nuance?
So yes, as I said, it's a type of engagement, level of involvement, but also you can see the difference in the quantity of data produced, or in the quality of results, or in the effects on the education. I will give some example, and the effect on the on what happened after. Example of effect on the education. The difference between a top-down learning system like school, classical school, and the project-based learning is not only to have a project. If you have a project, you are not in the format of project-based learning. If you want to be in the format of project-based learning, you need the project is the one of the participants. You need the participants want to solve this project. At this moment, it is their project, and you are in the project-based learning format. So the citizen science probably don't give you the situation of project-based learning, as you involve the citizen in the project, but it's not enough to have the effect that it is their project. Okay, if it is a smartphone application, or if it is a BioBlitz operation, you will not have the time, and you will not have the effect of making them making this project their project. So if you manage to give them more time, or if you manage to transform them from public to actor of the project, at this moment, you will enter in the fabulous world of participatory research, with all the difference and with all what makes the difference, including the quality of the learnings. We had some comparison studies between the quality of the learnings in a classical top-down school, in a classical citizen science project, and in participatory research project. You don't have a possibility to compare, as it is different. So the participatory research is very powerful for the quality of the learnings, but also for the behavior. So you have the know-how, and the know to be, okay? And you don't need these publics become all scientists at the end of their life. But depending what they will do after, they will be different if they lead the participatory research, as they will discover a new world where they can be actors of their life. So they will wait less from the government, and they will create more their own solutions. They will take in charge their destiny.
Thank you. Very good question. So I will close the event at 5:15. So if anyone else has some questions, please put them in the chat. So next, Snezhana in the chat asks that in Latvia, there isn't a big volunteer movement and volunteering culture. And how do you recommend that people can be better engaged to volunteer, and especially volunteer more deeply, not just submit 2 pictures of birds and then forget about the initiative?
Yeah, so you have some different points you can use. The dreams of the youth, the specificity of the country, for example, iconic animal. You can use the impatience from some people. You can use the non-for-profit network who have some proposals and want to realize them in reality, etc. So, for example, you can launch competition through the primary schools and through the secondary schools and the universities to create the travel of their dreams. And the prize for the first and second and third prize could be the realization in reality of the travel of their dreams. But the conditions, the parameters of the competition will be the dream travel have to solve one sustainable development goal, to use one or more disciplines of science, to involve a specific type of public, etc. So the ingredients, the elements of this dream travel will give from the beginning typically potential of participatory research. So you will have a form of volunteer movement, a popular involvement from this type of publics. If you take the iconic animal of the country, at this moment, you will create a passion, an emotion, and you can propose to progress step by step with little activities, half a day or weekend, to meet a lot of people, because it's easier for a lot of people. And after, you will engage a proportion of these people, because you will propose them a second step, ask more time. I mean, for example, 1 week science camp in the country. And date after date, the network will make the difference. We have some very, very strong networks in all the country to develop the involvement of the volunteers. One is the scientific networks, the researchers and the engineers like it and make the communication across the networks. And a second is the psychologists and teachers. For example, we have some psychologists specialized in the speech for the kids, and they propose to this type of kids to do to this type of scientific camps or to scientific clubs during the week, because they know it is exactly what need this type of kid or type of teenager. So we can use the network of the psychologists too, and the teachers for finishing like it, because with an operation of participatory research for schools, I mean, or activities in the school, in the class, or school trip, or citizen science club in the school, they can illustrate a lot of points of the curriculum, the school program, the objectives of the year. So it is easier for them with less work to see more target of the curriculum in one same activity. So the network of the teacher can be a very good network to launch a movement. And in hard science, you can open the lab after explaining and having time to exchange with scientists, engineers. They are interested to open the lab. And for example, we can create day camp. So a day camp, the kids and the teenagers come back at home the evening, and you can open a day camp for 1 week, day camp for 2 weeks. And for this, the engineers and the teachers from the engineer schools like to open the lab to create a summer club, a day camp. It's very efficient too.
And now in Latvia, several science and innovation centers are currently being established. Do you have any good examples of how science and innovation centers or science museums are used as platforms for this type of work?
So yes, for example, in Switzerland, we have a camp of paleontology. So we do research, real research on new sites to identify fossils of trails of dinosaurs. And the museum, the history, Natural History Museum of Geneva, collaborates as for the part of the research and as for the part of the communication, as they use what produced the teenagers and the adults of this camp to update the content of the exhibition of the museum. And they wanted to open and reinvent the museum to create an open space. Yes, to stop to be just as the old museum we know. Of course, you know already the science shop and the Fab Labs. So we collaborate strongly with the Fab Labs. We are in official partnership with the Fab Foundation, which is the federation of the Fab Labs through the world. And their idea is to see how the Fab Labs can support and help participatory research camps and operations, individual projects to solve the SDGs. So the Fab Lab is not only for SDGs, but for the question of solving or helping the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, they wanted to collaborate with the participatory research operations. So if you have some Fab Labs in Latvia, it can be a strong partnership as we can come from the Fab Foundation.
Yeah, and also I'm just thinking it might be worthwhile organizing some kind of exchange for the curators of these centers that are being established. One more question about various fields of science. So generally, you mentioned that you work across all fields of science, but I noticed that most of these initiatives do specialize in natural sciences. Do you have any experience with humanities initiatives? Because in Latvia, I would say we have a very disproportionately large citizen science humanities community.
Yeah, so you mean social sciences?
No, actually humanities. So we have like literature studying, people transcribe texts from old archives, like poems. There's initiatives where people dictate, let's say, some famous poet text, and then there's like speech analysis done on this text, and similar.
Yeah, humanities. Alors, so we created also how you say science fiction? Yeah, science fiction real project. So we connected the hard science topics from some camps to a camps of literatures. Yeah, humanities, and we opened the way of thinking of learning by doing and creating real projects, etc., to this type of sensibilities and publics. And it's just a new project, so we wanted to open to this type of disciplines. We opened another one in the same idea. On participatory cinema. And we did the same, so we connected this creation and creative project, humanities project with hard science topics of another camp. So we have one in Switzerland, connected with a camp monitoring the quality of the water of the big Lehman Lake. And a second camp is on humanities participatory cinema format. And it's more for people or teenagers or adults liking, yes, poetry, nature, literacy, etc. Do I answer the question?
Yeah, and it's actually very interesting that you mentioned these interdisciplinary initiatives, because that's also, I think, quite trendy to do nowadays, to have various fields of science mixed together to create something. This initiative about the water sampling also might be relevant to us because we've recently adopted a mission on water in Latvia. And then
in fact, as we are an NGO and science, we stay focused on science. But in fact, the technology of project-based learning and the technology of participatory project can be applied to absolutely all type of topic and disciplines, not only the science. So when we give the trainings in the country, all type of professionals can come and use the toolbox for all type of topics and fields.
So please, participants, write at least 1 or 2 more questions before we finish this event. While we're waiting for the questions, you mentioned that you also had some examples of social sciences initiatives just now. Can you maybe give some examples of social sciences projects you've been working with?
Social science. Alors, we have one we like particularly in partnership with the United Nations program called Harmony with Nature. What is a program in United Nations is in this United Nations system, the more strong type of actions, but sometimes it's small, sometimes it's big. A big program is, you know, the development program of the United Nations, the UNDP. And we have a lot of different type of program, but the program have to communicate the result in the General Assembly report of the United Nations. This program of United Nations, Harmony with Nature, is a little program head in New York, in charge in all the country to find how to make the human activities, economic, science, education, etc., compatible with the nature, in order to make the human activities not a danger for nature, but just normally, without problems for nature. And with this program, we created the meetings of excellence. We give to teenagers the excellence tool. Normally we find in state services, in non-for-profit or in companies for people 40 years old. These excellence tools like manage the time, like speak in publics, like manage the meetings, etc., are given to a public of teenagers by doing a real project during 2 weeks on a question of rights of nature. So what are the rights of the wolf? What are the rights of the whales? What are the rights of this forest? So depending the place where the camp take place, the topic of the camp is on a right of an animal or of nature where the camp take place. And during these 2 weeks, the teenagers learn a lot and change the world and change themselves, learning all this type of excellence tool, changing the world on the question of rights of nature. And they finish the year by communicating their results at the United Nations during the Geneva Forum. And during the Geneva Forum, these teenagers eat with very famous ambassadors or professionals of rights of nature, because they share the same networking dinner. They communicate at the same level of adults. And every time, the teenagers are better than the adults when they have to respect the timing of the speech or the quality of their speech. So every time it is a standing up ovation at the end.
I think that's a very great example to end it on. and also inspiration for, we might be having an event soon on STI for the SDGs. Also another example to look into. So once again, from our side, thank you very much for presenting today. And I'm sure some people from the Latvian community will be interested in finding out more through your website. And thank you to all the participants for joining. And the video with the subtitles, as mentioned earlier, will be available on the website. Thank you.